Okay, so yeah, just reading one of the magazines that you get when you're a registered nurse or work in healthcare. This is one of the, I think it might be one of the union papers for this month of, yeah. Anyway, T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and welcome back to another video. Well, this one is gonna be called something like the old new guy. Well, what does that imply? Well, as you can see here on the table in front of me or beside me, I have quite the impressive collection of some Nikon glass. It's the 60mm macro, the 20 to 35mm f2.8, the 35 to 70 f2.8, and the magnificent 80 to 200, or is it 80 to 200 f2.8. But the thing is, this is a little bit about the new guy, and as always, or as per usual, I have my little cheat sheet here with some notes. So yeah, as you all know, my old faithful digital camera that I've been using for the last couple of years actually, is the Nikon D2Xs, a real workhorse when it comes to digital photography. It's a crop sensor, and it is 24 and a bit megapixels, all that good stuff. But actually, I've been seeing on YouTube a couple of photographers that have done budget-oriented videos about older digital cameras. You can, for instance, I'm going to put a link to these in the description below. You have Matt Granger, who has his really interesting little series called BUDGETOGRAPhy. Really interesting one. He uses his old school camera of choice that has been dubbed the Sir Clicks-a-Lot. And then also the Afro guy from Philadelphia, Jared Polin, has done a challenge 5-minute portrait with a Nikon D2Xs. So link to both of those in the description. And well, I actually bought this camera on Tradera, or rather I bought two actually. First I bought one, used it, and thought, yeah, this is a really cool thing, I'm gonna do a video about it. But then the successor, or this other generation of it came up for sale, and being in a little bit of social isolation when I'm not at work, I kind of just did an impulse buy. So I actually gifted the first one to my dad, and I decided to keep this one. But what camera is it? Well, the Nikon D2Xs, the last of the Nikon D2 cameras, and also the final pro body camera digital camera Nikon made that is a APS-C sensor. This is a magnesium body, but I'm gonna go into the specs of it a little bit more in detail. But yeah, let's see here. I haven't seen that many videos on YouTube about this camera. There are a few ones, and they are fairly decent actually. But let's see here. I've actually started to I got the information about this camera from both Ken Rockwell's website and from a little bit of some other sources, among which were NASA, because this model camera, the D2Xs, was actually used on NASA's STS-124 mission, which delivered the Japanese module to the International Space Station, and then those cameras actually stayed on the space station. And according to the Wikipedia of this camera, you have a picture taken from the ISS here. Yeah, so let's see, the new price for the Nikon D2Xs when it was new in 2006 was about $4,700. And that is definitely not the price paid for me when I got this. It was way below that, a couple of $100 in fact. Okay, so while this one came out in 2006, the D3 came out in 2007. So it was just 1 year between the two flagship cameras, which in part means that you can actually get a few of these on a decent price with very few shutter clicks on them. This one, when I bought it, had about 14% of the total what the shutter is rated to be able to the expected shutter life. It's only been 14%. But anyway, let's move on. Okay, so this camera sports a 12.4 megapixel DX CMOS sensor. It has an ISO range of 100 to 800 with a boost setting up to 3200. But for most online reviews that I've been reading and from my own experience, this is basically a 1 to 400-ish ISO camera. Above that, you're starting to get a lot of digital noise in the images, although you can actually it works if you use black and white. In my opinion, it gives it a little bit of a stylistic choice there, but it is a low ISO camera. But at 100 ISO, I'm going to show you some example images with both the D2X and this one, the D2Xs. Okay, when it came out, it had a 3D color matrix 2 metering modes. It has an 11-point multicam 2000 AF system, and let's see here. It has ITTL, which means it is fully compatible with all the accessories in the creative lighting system, or Nikon CLS, which is a system that I have talked about in previous installments. And also, as stated before, it is a magnesium alloy camera body, which makes this a very tough workhorse indeed. And what else is there to say? Well, in continuous low mode, this camera will actually give you 5 frames per second, and then in a boosted high continuous high mode, it will actually go up to 8 frames per second. But the caveat with that is that it will actually crop in on the sensor in order to keep that 8 frames per second. But the biggest difference between the D2X and the XS is that the XS has a cropping in the viewfinder when using the boosted continuous high mode. So actually then I would say that when I had still the D2X, I actually took these 4 lenses out on a little bit of a walk through town. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the Panasonic Action Cam because this camera has no video options. So yeah, that's a little bit of a negative, the biggest negative in my no video, not even standard definition. But contrary, I used these 4 lenses on them, and I don't think any of them need any bigger introduction. They're all brilliant glass from Nikkor and so on. So yeah, I think the images speak for themselves, and 12.4 megapixels. Actually, when I started to edit these images in Lightroom, I was actually blown away by the quality that I actually was able to get with this old school digital camera. So even though it's nowhere near modern standards when it comes to digital photography, it is still a brilliant workhorse that can be used to learn about photography and learn the exposure triangle and, learn flash photography. Because if you're using flash photography and the creative lighting system, you really don't need to go any higher than ISO 100, because you can start off there and you can go up to maybe ISO 400 in order to get a good all-round working order for the creative lighting system. So yeah, really great camera that seems to be something that most people write off nowadays, but keep in mind this was just one generation prior to the fabled now Nikon D3. So that will actually get us to the next little acquisition that I managed to get. And let's see here. First of all, when I got this camera, of course, manual, really good manual, solid, everything you need to know about the camera. And this is like when you're buying a used car, it's like you always try to get as much of the information as possible and so on. This one came with the original box and so on, something that most people actually throw out the first thing they do. So that was really a pleasant surprise to be able to get the camera with the original packaging, in my opinion. So that's a little bit of a good thing. And also, speaking of the creative lighting system, this, if you're a flash photographer that uses the Nikon creative lighting system, this, in my opinion, is one of the accessories you really should take a look at. And it's the Nikon SU-800. It's a flash controller. So this little gizmo is put on the hot shoe of the camera, thusly, just like any other Nikon off or on camera flash. But what this one does is actually that it weighs a lot less than a flash, and it makes you much more mobile, and you can edit all of the flash settings directly on the camera like so. It really makes the production go fast, smoothly, and really to the point. So let's see a little bit of the specs for the SU-800 flash controller. New price on Nikon Sweden's website, because this is still sold, was $364.65. Used on Tradera, a website, secondhand website that I have plugged many times, the price was $119.78. That's my price paid for this one. Okay. It's a dedicated controller for the Nikon creative lighting system. The compatibility with this one is the SB900, the SB800, the SB600, and the special ring flash or on a lens mounted SBR200 macro flash. It has a built-in AF assist light, which can be turned off or on depending on your needs. It is compatible with shooting the CLS in ITTL. It can be used in manual, and there's also a dedicated close system for the above mentioned SBR200. The backlit, it has a backlit LCD screen that shows you up to the 3 flash. You can have a group A, B, C, and I think it's 4 or 5 channels. So it's a really versatile unit as stated. The only downside I have been able to see with this system is the battery used, and it is the 3 volt CR123A lithium battery that is used with this one. And also, speaking of batteries, I thought I would show you a little bit here. This is a little bit of bonus. The Sony that I am filming this on right now uses these batteries, which I think is kind of a Sony standard for a lot of their products. It is the NP-FV50 battery, which you can get a lot of. There are some bigger batteries that you can get as well. I have one of those, and there are these smaller ones that are compatible with a lot of Sony products. So that's that one. For the D7200, there is this one. It's this is an aftermarket one. It's the ENEL15, and yeah, this is the one used for the D7200. And finally, for the D2Xs and the Nikon D3 and some other Nikon higher-end cameras, there is this one here, which this is also a this is also a third-party one, but the real model number is ENEL4/ENEL4A. So you can see here the size comparison between them. It's kind of interesting as well. But as always, a little bit of what has happened. Yeah, as you saw in the beginning, me reading that magazine. Well, I know that a lot of people nowadays, it's social isolation, it's about don't go outside unless you have to, and all of that good stuff, pun intended. But I thought that I would just go out for a little bit of a nature walk, keeping my distance from other people out and about. But yeah, it was the D2X, and I managed to get these bird images, some parks here in Uppsala, and these actually blew me away. It was basically the 80 to 200 millimeter f2.8, and the image quality was kind of, for me, astonishing that it's such an old school camera and it still delivers this level of image quality. So hope you enjoy the little image show after this and so on. And as always, yeah, what I can say is, as you might know by now, my day job is that I am a registered nurse and a radiology nurse here in Uppsala. And yeah, I think my new words to live by on the work is in Swedish is basically: vi kan inte längre göra rätt, bara vårt yttersta att göra så lite fel som möjligt. Which translated into English becomes something like: we can no longer do everything correctly, we can just strive to do as little wrong as possible. And that's basically it. That's my 2 cents on the current situation worldwide. We're trying our best with what we have. But anyway, I thought that will be it for this episode. I know that has been long in the tooth between episodes, but it is basically fairly understandable circumstances. So yeah, as always, take care and be safe, and follow your local and national guidelines to the best of your ability. And as always, this is Tobias Bergström from T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and I'd like to see you guys in the next video. And as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you hopefully in the next video. Take care from now on. Bye.